So, a little bit about me, Dr. Ian Lertora, or Jan Lertora, and my educational background. I'm from Sam Houston State University, is where I received my master's and my doctoral degree. I have just recently become a professor here at Texas Tech. My official start date was September 1st of this year. The areas of interest are clinical mental health. That's a program that I teach in. I'm a professor in the educational psychology and leadership department, but in the counselor education program, so it's a pretty convoluted umbrella that I'm dancing under. My specific area of interest is about international student transition to college life in the United States, and also transitioning out to work. Also other transitions that students go through, like your in K through 12 education, your 504 special ed, and emotionally disturbed students. And other interests are going to come up as we go along. Let's see, while a student, I didn't really serve on any committees officially. I tended to take an advising role instead of being an actual committee member. In my experiences at Sam Houston, getting on committees was pretty difficult. It was also time consuming, and it didn't really fit within my schedule. But I found that being an advisor, I could skip a lot of the meetings where a lot of stuff wasn't getting done and still be able to stick in the information I needed to stick in. Was able to drive create some institutional change where I was, from being on the fringes instead of being caught in the political fray. And then when you're sitting at a table or in an office with everybody who's got PhDs and EDDs and you're a doc student, you're essentially nobody. So I didn't want to take part in that. The committees that I contributed to were in relation. One was an international education team, something like that, where we put on a conference, a yearly conference that was attended by quite a few different universities, where we all spoke on international issues in education. And one of the other ones that I served on was an advisor for the Office of International Programs at Sam Houston State University. As a new faculty member, I haven't been really looking for committees to get involved in. It was impressed upon us pretty heavily during orientation not to overcommit yourself within your first semester or your first year as faculty. Take the time to get adjusted, figure out the lay of the land. Don't say yes to everybody. So I've been very tentative about making any solid commitments to any committees or programming. I've been approached a lot, but it's kind of like there's sharks and blood in the water. And since I guess I'm new blood, the sharks come out and try to see if they can get you to participate and do different things in committees, where at this point, the way I'm processing it is, what do I get out of being in this committee? It's a very, lack of better words, very selfish-minded approach at this point. Because one of my primary responsibilities as a new faculty, especially at a Research One institution, is getting my research agenda off the ground. And unless those committees tie into my research agenda, then I'm not really going to be inclined to participate in those committees. So one of the things that I look for when I'm looking for any kind of service or faculty advising positions is, how does it all tie into? Does it tie into my teaching? Does it tie into my university service? And does it tie into my research? Because I'm all about triple dipping. If any one of them can fit all three, then I can research it, I can write it, and it goes on to my tenure and promotion file. Let's see. I think some of the pros and cons. So first, the pros of serving in committees is you're getting acclimated to the political environment, which is very present. It's not talked about a whole lot in doctoral programs, but what goes on in not only in the College of Education, but what goes on in any college on this campus and the campus as a whole is not much different than Capitol Hill. There's sides, there's aisles, people standing on one side, people standing on the other. So in those committees, you get to meet a lot of these personalities and these players in the game, and you get a good sense, if you're observant, you get a good sense of who's swinging the biggest stick and who ducks when the stick swings. So that's a strong benefit, is the networking, the connections that you can make. You can also do that by attending the committee meetings without being a committee member. So there's other ways around doing that. The cons, time. Every committee that meets is time. Depending on what university you're at, you may have 5, 10, 15, 20 office hours that you have to keep a week. If typically Mondays are not a day that you come in because you work from home, but your committee meets every Monday, it kind of screws up your schedule. Also, in my experience, sitting on the fringes of a number of committees is not a lot gets done in committees. It's a lot of people who are talking about, I do this and I do that, when I did this and when I did that, and this is how this, blah, blah, you know, at my other university, what we used to do, and it's just everybody, it turns into more of a contest than in a competition of egos than it does something that's really productive. So I tend to look at the first few times that I sit around a committee without actually being a committee member. I'm observing, basically I'm conducting my own interview of, do I actually want a role on this committee? Do I want a title in this organization? Do I want to be a president, vice president, treasurer, whatever positions that they have, or do I just even want to be involved in it? So I'm very tentative about that because time is not easy to come by. Some of the perceptions in academia are that we don't have to be here very much, and we don't have to do this, or we don't have to do that. It's still work, whether you do it at home or whether you do it up here. It's still stuff that needs to be done, because if not, you won't make promotion and tenure. Let's see. Right now at Tech, as far as committees that I'd like to be a member of, I've gone about this in a little bit of a different way, trying to find people that I could see myself working with, ideas that I'm interested in. And I found right now that it's been more beneficial for me, as I'm getting a lay of the land, to take a role as a faculty advisor instead of an actual committee member. And that's given me a lot more freedom to move around, to participate in the stuffy meetings if I want to, or to sit in on a lot of informal meetings where things actually get done. So right now I'm over faculty advisor for the International Culture Center, which is under the Office of International Affairs, and I'm helping them with their programming for new international student orientation. Where if I go sit on a committee with all the bigwigs, then we're all just going to sit here and talk about a bunch of ideas, but is the rubber going to hit the road? So I'm actually advising the person who is conducting orientation and the things that I found in my research agenda and that I'd like to see implemented, because the research that I conducted points to certain things needing to be done that aren't being done. I'm actually getting to implement those things. That big old long dissertation that I thought I may not be able to do anything with, I'm actually getting to implement my recommendations in a real setting, which feels pretty good and should probably net some more research and publications out of that. And sometimes it's just sticking your head in somebody's door who's open and seeing what's going on and being friendly. Helping out with the marketing communication team is fun, because it's just sitting around and having some good ideas there and getting to be a faculty advisor on that team. It's not an official committee, but it's more fun. It gives me a break from what I'm doing academically or teaching or whatnot, and gives me out of my office and talking with people who are doing different things, which is just a little bit more mental stimulation. It's an active break from what I'm doing. The next question, is there anything I'd like to add about committees? I would just caution any new faculty members not to overcommit yourself. When you raise your hand and say yes for something, that person who's asking you is expecting you to do something. And if you tend to say yes all the time, you're going to find yourself with a whole bunch of stuff to do. And they're going to expect it to be done, and they don't care about your other things that you have to do. So take care of yourself first. And this is a rule that we have in mental health as well. Self-care is important. Take care of yourself first. If I'm not taking care of myself as a mental health professional, how can I sit in front of anybody else and try to help them take care of themselves too? So there is a selfish aspect to being selfless. But it starts with being selfish first. work on yourself, get yourself acclimated to a university, figure out the lay of the land before you start overcommitting. Because you also may find yourself in a political environment that you're not familiar with. You may end up on a committee that's not a very popular committee, and it may paint you in a negative light with folks that are observing your performance. So there's some of that political vying that goes on, and until you have a better understanding of the lay of the land, it's better to be on the fringes, in my opinion, than it is to jump right into the fray. If you're going to jump into the fray on some things, make it about your research agenda, because that's something you can defend yourself with. Why am I over there spending 5 hours a week at the Office of International Programs? I am responsible for helping them change the way that they orient international students. And that's directly related to my research agenda, which is defendable from anybody from my program chair to the department chair to the dean. And so, keep that in mind. You have to take care of yourself. And then the next step is, after taking care of yourself, is to be a team player as well. I've been advised that committee service is not entirely important, as it seemed to be told to me when I was in my doctoral program. There's other ways. It's an old country saying, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. So there's a lot of different ways you can have university service. At some point, it's going to be good to get on a committee, but it's not something that you need to race to get on within your first year or your second year. If they see during your third year review, if that's how your university works, they'll advise you at your third year review of what you need to do to make tenure. And if it is, well, we'd like to see you on a committee or two, well, then you've got 2 years to find a committee to get on. But depending on what your degree is in and what area you're going to be in at a college, because sometimes your degree may be in curriculum instruction, you may find yourself in the ed psych department. Sometimes if you've got a really strong background in quantitative research, you may get pulled into a program that is not related to your degree. But because of your researching skills, they need someone who can be an expert of research, period. And so just keep in mind, don't overcommit yourself. Make sure that you are getting a good understanding of how things are going before you dive into it. I don't believe committee membership is that important starting out. It is something that is going to need to happen either a little bit before your first promotion and tenure, or after. Say, when you're an assistant professor going up for associate professor, your third year review, they may say it'd be good to join a committee or two, so you join a committee or two at the recommendation of the people who have reviewed you. You may get to be associate professor without having participated in many committees, but then the recommendation may be that they'd like to see services on campus-wide committees before you go up for full professor. So talk with people who've been there first. Talk to those people who are about ready to go up for assistant professor or associate professor, and then talk to your associate professors that have just been appointed, and then talk to those that are getting ready to go up for full or who have just gotten full. It's good to talk to that person who's been here 20 years, but it's also good to talk to the person who's been here 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Look at the phases and stages and try to talk to someone and get an opinion. And don't just go with one person's opinion. Triangulate it. Make sure that you're getting, because one person's opinion is not gospel truth, and neither is mine. Let's see. So, the last question: how has it been communicated to you how much service you should give in committees and what committees you should serve on? It's going to be university specific. Follow the lead of your department and department chair. If you're in a program within a department and that department's larger like I'm in, I think there's 8 or 10 programs underneath the umbrella of educational psychology and leadership. My department chair may not have a good handle on what I'm doing individually, but it's my responsibility to make him aware of what I'm doing individually. So make sure that you meet with your department chair, your program chair, every now and then. It doesn't have to be a weekly thing. How am I doing? How am I doing? How am I doing? Because you're going to annoy them. But at least least check in once a semester. Make yourself known. Sometimes that's one of the most, in my experience, that's one of the most important things is being seen. So if you have a preferred pathway to your office, make sure you take the back way every now and then. Walk by the dean's office and the administrator's office and the AT team, the administrative team's office. Make sure the associate dean sees you every now and then. Pop your head in the office and just say, hey, how's it going today? And then you can walk on, but they saw you. It's important to be seen. It gives the perception that you're around, that you're available, that you're here, that you're working, that you're making connections, that you are representing your college, your university, and your institution in a positive light. And a lot of the opportunities that I've found myself engaging in this semester, being 3.5, 4 months in, have happened because I've been walking around and talking to people. You think that you got to sit in your chair and you got to write, and at some point you do. But everything that I've netted is because I couldn't sit down and write. I got up out of my chair and I went to talk to people. So if you're introverted, it's okay. You can still go out there and be social. You just need to shut your door when you're done and recharge. But go out there and talk to folks. Be seen, be heard, be known, and make sure you're talking with people who've been there before. That's all I got.